Hello everyone and welcome to an incredible game that just finished from round 7 of this year's World Rapid Championship. It is Daniel Naroditsky, who everyone who is, who's ever been online looking for chess has heard of, as not just as a chess commentator, not just as a content creator, but also as a specialist in speed chess, in bullet chess, blitz chess, rapid chess. So here he's trying to prove that he can do the same over the board. And he's facing none other than the great Nodirbek Abdusattorov, who has already won the World Rapid Championship once, and he is definitely one of the favorites to win this event. However, Nodirbek already lost one game going into this matchup, and Daniel is undefeated. But okay, Nodirbek does have an extra win, and Naroditsky only has 2 draws. So it's a crazy game. I'm not going to spoil anything. Let's check it out. It will be a really fun pause the video moment. So let's see what happened. Daniel opens with pawn to e4. We have pawn to c6, the Caro-Kann defense from Nodirbek, knight to f3, d5, and the trade in the center. E captures on d5, we have c captures, and pawn to d4. We have knight to f6, the immediate knight to e5, and knight to c6. Bishop to b5, pinning the knight, and now bishop to d7. Knight captures on d7, queen captures on d7, and pawn to c3. Strengthening the center, strengthening the dark squares, and the bishop can be retreated if needed. We have pawn to e6, castles, and bishop to d6. We have knight to d2, castles kingside, and the rook to e1. So all been played before, nothing new being played here. Queen c7 putting pressure on that h2 pawn, so pawn to g3, and rook f to e8. We have knight to f3, and now knight to e4. And this knight is already very, very annoying here, and should be dealt with. So knight to g5, going after Nodirbek's strong knight. And there is a game where knight captures on g5 was played. Mikhail Kobalia played it against Dmitry Andreikin in a game in 2018, and the game ended in a draw. But here we have pawn to f5 by Nodirbek, and it is now as of move 14 that we have a completely new game. So queen to h5, going for the checkmating attack. We have pawn to g6, stopping this idea by defending the h7 pawn with the queen. Queen h6, and now pawn to a6, kicking away the bishop. And well, you could bring the bishop to e2, or maybe you bring it over to a4 and then maybe to c2. We have the immediate bishop to f1, and Daniel strikes in the center with pawn to e5, which is, I mean, if you can do it, it's always the best move. Knight captures, we have d captures on e4, and the bishop to g5. The bishop will be very useful here. If it comes to f6, again, you will have some pressure here, so the queen will have to keep an eye on that g7 square. We have queen to f7, now preparing to kick away the queen with bishop to f8, pawn to b3, and now e captures on d4. We have bishop to c4, Nodirbek allowing this, even though it will cost him the exchange. Rook to e6, and now bishop to f4, but the strongest move recommended by the engine. We have bishop to f8, kicking away the queen, and queen to h3 now. Rook 8 to e8, just continuing like nothing is happening here, as you definitely do have compensation for the soon-to-be sacrificed material if you look at the central pawn chain. Pawn to g4. Objectively, best is probably captures on d4 or pawn to f3, but here Daniel really tries to mix it up, and he allows Nodirbek to grab a significant advantage if he finds d captures on c3. Now, it's very hard for anyone not to play d3 here. I mean, you have a defended passed pawn on d3, but I will just show one of the lines, d captures on c3, and now this is an incredible pawn that should remain there, and that's all there is to it, because if you capture the queen, you can choose how you want to win material, either by bishop to g7 or by bishop to b4. Both is excellent for black. Like queen g3 are going to capture, and after rook captures, you're going to play knight to d4. The knight is coming to f3. This is either winning, or maybe white can miraculously save this. But after g4, pawn to d3 was played, which also looks excellent, but as you'll see, it's not as simple. G captures on f5, queen captures on f5, and now queen captures on f5. G captures, and rook 8 to d1. So the pin still exists. You're not going to capture unless black really forces you. King to f7, and now pawn to f3. Bishop to c5 with check. bishop to e3. You could also move the king to f1. Bishop to e3 was played. Bishop captures on e3. Rook captures on e3, and now king to f6. Unpinning, and now it's time to win material. Bishop captures on e6. We have rook captures on e6, and now rook d to e1, preparing to capture on e4 at some point if possible, and here we have pawn to b5. Maybe some other moves were a bit safer, but pawn to b5 is what was played. And now the question is, should you capture the pawn here? Well, obviously not, because if you capture, f captures on e4, you haven't really done anything, and if you play rook captures, and rook captures, there's the problem of pawn to d2, and you don't have rook to e1, and you don't have rook to d4. Luckily, you do have rook to f4 check, and then after the king moves, you can block with rook to f1, but still, it's only black that can win this, so you cannot play like this. So king to g2 was played, and now pawn to b4. Doesn't matter if c4 or c captures and b4 are played, Nodirbek is now winning the d4 square for his knight. So pawn to c4, Naroditsky also gets a passed pawn, and now pawn to f4. By far, the best was knight to d4 going after the c2 square, because after f captures, knight to c2 attacks both of the rooks. e5 check, you get this move in, and after the king moves, now you play king to f2, and the game continues. Something like rook to h6, you go after the pawn. It could go both ways, but this was definitely the way for Nodirbek to continue. So after c4, pawn to f4 was played, and now it becomes very interesting. Rook captures, f captures on e4, king to e5, so you do get your king into the game, and it looks like it's going to be smooth sailing from here on. King to f3, and now knight to d4 with check. King to f2, knight to c2, attacking the rook, and rook to d1, putting pressure on the pawn. King captures on e4, and now pawn to c5. Look at this beautiful move. It looks like it looked like it wasn't really going to do anything, and that it was irrelevant for the game. But now, how do you stop the pawn? If you can go with the king, then you're going to lose the d3 pawn. So knight to e3. Of course, you can always block the c7 square with the knight, for example, but also it comes with tempo on the rook. And here, rook to g1 is the only move that is good for white, and by good, I mean most likely winning. So rook to g1, we have king to d5 going after the pawn, and now king to e1. Here, rook to g7 is the only winning move for Daniel, but he played king to e1, and he allowed Nodirbek to get back into the game, but he has to play king captures on c5. So the most obvious move is the move you have to play here. However, he played pawn to f3. And it looks awesome, but it's really not. So feel free to pause the video and try to find the only move that wins the game for Daniel while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on remaining undefeated, much like Daniel Naroditsky in the tournament. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is king to f2. That's right. Nodirbek rushed it by playing pawn to f3, and the reason is that if you go king to d2, then f2 is winning. It comes with a tempo on the rook, and also f1 is covered by the knight, and you'd get something like rook h1, and then you can win by pretty much playing anything. But we can show a really fun line: c6 f1 queen, you're gonna capture, and after knight captures with check, for example king to e1, you play king to e3, and after pawn to c7, look at this, pawn to d2 with check, preparing to queen, and if king to d1, you just play king to d3, you allow the queening of the white queen, and then knight e3 will be checkmate. There are many lines that you can use, but this is the one I found to be the most interesting. But Naroditsky said, nope, not today. He played king to f2, and he said thank you for the full point. Nodirbek, we have king to d4. Other moves also don't help you. If you play d2, just king captures on e3. There's nothing to be done about this. King to d4 was played pawn to c6 by Naroditsky with knight to d5 and rook to g4 with check. King to c3 and now rook to c4 with check. King to b2 and now rook to d4, attacking the knight. Knight to c7, and of course rook captures on d3, and now from the the two pass pawns that you had and that you were really hoping for will do something in this game. Now you have nothing. King captures on a2, Rook to d7 attacks the knight, knight to b5, and now rook to b7, not even allowing the knight to be sacrificed for the pawn. And here king captures on b3 was played, and he was in this position on move 50 that Nodirbek Abdusattorov resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. But even if you try something, the problem is if you play knight d6, then c7 wins. And again, you're not going to allow the knight to sacrifice itself for the pawn. You're going to go rook b6. Once the knight moves, you're going to go rook b8. And now once the knight moves, you're going to go rook to d8. And now there are no more squares to try and sacrifice the knight for the pawn, and that's pretty much it. Here you resign, the pawn is becoming a queen, and the black king will get checkmated within a few moves. So incredible victory for Daniil Naroditsky, who is now, after 7 rounds, in sole lead. He's on 6 out of 7. Absolutely incredible. 5 wins and 2 draws. One of the few undefeated ones, and there are 3 more rounds today. We'll see if he can keep this up, but this is really incredible. Let me just check real quickly who he's facing next. He's facing young Krzysztof Duda, and he will have the black pieces. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But for now, he's leading the World Rapid Championship, and he has just taken down one of the previous winners of the World Rapid Championship, 2740 Nodirbek Abdusattorov. Absolutely incredible. Yeah, hope you enjoyed it, and very much looking forward to covering other games. Hope he continues to play this well. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Okay, maybe Nodirbek over pushed it a little bit. He had a draw, but of course, I mean, he's 2740. He wants to win every game. Naroditsky played brilliantly, and yeah, there was no way for Nodirbek to stop him. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Bartolt Kroll, Lawrence Brazer, Frank Pluy, Timothy Rosen, and Mark Henley Brennan for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of this wonderful event until it finishes. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.